Jodi Votel that I recently that I met, and it's just a joy. And I came to one of the classes. I work early, but I made one of the classes, and I did go to a seance. That was my first one up in Harmony Grove, and I was just beginning out in spiritualism. And I heard about Reverend Millie Landis, and it was such an incredible experience. Of course, some of us got pulled into the circle, and it was just a tremendous demonstration of the love Spirit has for us in our daily lives. And so when I heard, and then she continued on in Swedenborgian. I went there a lot, and then I heard Spencer and Jodi wanted to do this circle here, and it's such a blessing. It's a wonderful way to open up and to heal, and so just so excited. Jodi Votel began her spiritual journey in 2002. Her mediumship was under the tutelage of Reverend Millie Landis. She has also volunteered on the FSC Board of Directors, worked with healing and teaching. She also has worked with the Federal Aviation Administration for 29 years. Jodi currently works in equal employment opportunity, discrimination complaints, and also performs collateral duties as conflict coach and mediator. Jodi has been married for 32 years, 2 daughters, 20 and 28, a cat, and a husky. She currently is working with Spencer on Tuesday evenings here at Project Angel. And let us welcome, please, Jodi Votel.
I'm so grateful that I got to come early. I just wanted to mention the beautiful healing service, so thank you for that. I'm just so glad I got to come here, and it kind of balanced me. I was trying to pull myself in kind of into ground, and sitting on the healing stool, thank you, Chris, really helped me kind of get grounded. I don't know if all the tears are out, so we'll see. Okay, so I picked the Love Lifted Me song because that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about love, but more importantly, I kind of want to talk about self-love. So you'd mentioned the classes, and it's such a privilege and an honor to hold the space for the kinds of things that happen in our class. We've had some pretty amazing healings that happen. And it's really nice because when we can get rid of some of the garbage that's inside of us and heal, it makes us brighter, clearer, more clear, just shining channels for God. So I'm so grateful, and really it was all Spencer's idea. And so I'm just grateful that he called me, and what a privilege it is. I just want to say that. For love, in the highest of the highs, it's really easy to feel it, right? Like, it's so easy to feel it when you're completely filled with love. And in the lowest of lows, there's still love. It's just less love sometimes. It's just a less of a love volume, or it's turned down, or it's toned down for whatever reason. But in the darkest places, and the ones that we think are ugly or evil, there's still love there. It could stand to kind of be lifted up a little bit. Love lifted me, So that goes for us too, because we can have some of the darkest places inside of us. And sometimes we are punishing ourselves. and exiling ourselves into these places where we start to forget what love feels like, or that there is even love there. So it's interesting, like this, the anguish, and you want to lift everybody up. And really, we can only lift ourselves up. That we have enough strength to lift ourselves up, to be, and I used to dim my light. I always felt a light. I always felt some kind of light. And let me share just a little bit about my background. At 45 years old, I found myself in a office of a licensed family marriage therapist. And my daughter had just gone through therapy for an eating disorder. And she found this therapist, and she kept telling me, I think you would just love her. You would just love her. And, that's great. I'm sure I would love her. And then, just what was happening in my life at that time was, it's kind of a textbook. No one would listen to me. I couldn't get anybody to do anything. Ask my family, just, can you do the dishes? I don't want to do the dishes. Well, can't you just like doing the dishes? I don't like doing dishes. Well, can't you just like, if you like doing dishes, it would be really fun. We don't have to like doing dishes, okay? And so this whole thing where I just didn't feel listened to, I wasn't feeling heard, and so I had brought my family into this woman's office, and I had called her and said, you need to tell them how messed up they are. She was like, okay. One of the things that came out of that was, why do you need them to like doing dishes? And I was like, it's just funner that way. Spoonful of sugar. So anyway, she said, if they agree to do the dishes, then what does it matter if they like it, if they've agreed to do it, So then it starts to unfold this process of me learning how to kind of let other people. The other thing she told me was, if you are trying to do this for people, or trying to control them, or trying to make them into this box, or especially with like a child or a partner, without saying it, I'm saying I don't trust them and I don't think they can do it. And so that was kind of the space I was in. I felt like I had to control everything. And these are messages that come from not inside here. These are messages that are coming from out here. So that was a nice turning point for me. And she asked me at the end of the session, hey, would you like to come back? Why? No, just, to talk. I'm like, okay. So anyway, long story short, she saw me. She saw me and what was happening to me and where I was in my life. And I was in one of those places where I wasn't loving myself. I didn't know how to love myself. She diagnosed me with childhood PTSD. So there was, we all have adversity, and we all have a level of experience, and I think that trauma is relative to a person, but even then, even though there was trauma there was still love. See what I'm saying? Like, even in those places where it hurts, but there's still love there. I still felt loved, but I didn't love myself, and I didn't know how to love myself. And she asked me a question, how do you feel and what do you need? And I was like, I don't even know what you're saying. No one ever asked me that before. How do I feel? I don't know how I feel. And I'm still working on that. I'm still working on figuring out how I feel about stuff. What I've discovered about me is it takes me a minute to feel my feelings. And it might be because I haven't been used to feeling my feelings for 45 of those years. So it takes practice. But wow. And of course, so growing up, I was in these places of just like, there was no identity, there was no self-identity, and I was looking outside of myself for that validation. And that included getting attention so that I felt like I was worth something. And for a woman, a lot of times that is the attention of men. That was kind of culturally, that's what I knew. That's how people reflected my worth back to me. So I figured that was where my worth was. So that was interesting. That didn't work out so well. So I really care a lot about self-care, because she said to me, I see you saying the things that you're supposed to say in a therapy session. You've got it all down. You're saying all the answers that a therapist would want to hear. But I could tell that you don't believe it. You know, you say you love yourself. I could tell you don't believe it. Now, I didn't know how she could tell. But we did a year of EMDR therapy, which is stimulating both sides of the brain to bring the trauma from the back of your brain and your amygdala, where the trauma sits, into the prefrontal cortex, so that you can see it through your adult eyes. And when that happened, I understood that as a child, it was the grown-ups in my life who had a responsibility to keep me safe. I didn't know how. You can't keep yourself safe as a child. So this is EMDR right here. This is soothing if you ever are trying to figure out your emotions. This is a great hug and a great way to kind of soothe. So this whole process of like coming home to myself and learning how to love myself. And that has been one of the hardest and most rewarding journeys I'll ever continue to do. Because it's not a thing that you get to. Because everything that happens in our life then becomes learning for us. And so I said before, it's really easy to find God in those times when everything's beautiful and everything's expansive and loving and colorful. And then how do we find God when we're not in those places? And it looked to me like, did anybody see Little Mermaid? The Little Mermaid? Okay, so we've got half. But Ursula is the witch who makes a bargain with Ariel to give, she will let her be a human in exchange for her voice. And what happens is she sets up the odds so that you're not going to win in her little game. And so she's got this cave of like people who have won or have lost their bargain with Ursula, and they're like little like things going at the bottom of her cave, you know. And it just made me think about like that's sometimes how I feel. I feel like I'm in that cave and I'm like commiserating with all the all that grief and all that sorrow and all that sadness, and there's so much purpose in there because we have to go there. We need to go there. We need to feel our feelings. Brene Brown has a new book called Atlas of the Heart, and it talks about 87 different emotions. Not just emotions, but like situations where it's like an emotion. And she talks about how she was an alcoholic and she would numb herself because she didn't want to feel all the feelings. She didn't want to feel the intensity of life. It's really easy to feel the beauty of life, but feeling the hard part of life isn't that easy. And we as humans, like, I don't know what got in I don't know where it is that says that it's going to be all easy down here. Like, why would we come? Heaven is where it's all wonderful and beautiful. Like, why are we choosing to come here? And right, the whole thing is we're here to learn and grow. Well, that's going to include this adversity. It's going to include these dark times. And, you know, I could go to that place and shine my light as bright as I can to say, look, this is the good news, right? I wonder if that was the real good, I mean, that's the good news, right? Like, look how you could feel if you love yourself, if you know what love is, and then you love yourself and you love everybody else because you love yourself, you know? So I can shine my light so bright, but I can't make anybody come out of that cave. Because you don't know what you don't know. I mean, there were so many things I didn't know about loving myself or about engaging in the world, that leaning into conflict can be good. That asking questions and being curious about these kinds of things can be good, and it can be the scariest, most terrifying thing you'll ever do. But then afterward, it's like, oh, that monster wasn't as big as I thought it was. But I can't tell you, I can shine my light and I can try to pick, oh, this hurting, this sorrow, I feel that so much. And how do you lift up? You know? And the only answer that comes is just by being love and taking care of yourself and being that example of someone who takes care of someone who loves themselves. I don't have 5 steps to loving yourself. I'm sorry. But it's taking the time, I think, in the meditation today, even where just 5 minutes of what's happening in here. What am I feeling in here? And who am I even? And what am I about? And there's more to me than just what's stuffed inside of this meat suit. Spirit showed me, and it's just a picture, and it doesn't have to sit with you, so if it doesn't feel right, throw it away. But that it's like I have a home star, and I left, like most of me is with my home star, with God, with that beautiful energy, with that expansiveness, that joy, the place where all the flowers and trees and everything is singing. So those dark nights of the soul, sitting with someone and just being there with them and just saying, I'm here with you, I don't know what to say. I don't know what I can't, however it is, but I just want to be with you. I don't have anything to say. I don't need to fix you. I don't need to change you. I don't need to move you from where you are. It doesn't mean something until it means something, and we don't know what we don't know. And so I guess the best I could do is remind you of how amazing you are. Like, you are so worthy of love. And I want to hold the parts of all of us that is in the place where there's just a little bit of love. And I had a whole talk planned, and it just didn't happen, I spent weeks spinning my wheels about what am I going to talk about, So I guess I want to read a couple of quotes that kind of get me to this place where, I want to hold. And I want to say, let me remind you of the things that either you're forgetting or maybe you just don't know yet. And it's okay if you want to stay here for as long as you need to stay here, and let me love you where you're at, It just seems so important to not rush people out of those places where they're grieving and where they're sad, because there's purpose in that. about you. Our connection, this is Brene Brown in her book, Atlas of the Heart. Our connection with others can only be as deep as our connection with ourselves. If I don't know and understand who I am and what I need, want, and believe, I can't share myself with you. I need to be connected to myself in my own body and learning what makes me work. This is how I start to develop the grounded confidence I need to move through the world and cultivate meaningful connections with others. I had just really quickly, I don't know how much time I have left, but someone very near and dear to me who I love so much and who I could always feel some sort of Ursula K thing happening with them. But you just let it go. My work with this person was to love and accept them exactly the way they were. And the timing was impeccable, because I think once I did that for myself, and I have a very deep connection with this person, and once I did that, I felt like maybe energetically this person experienced the knowing that I had released that, and kind of they went on their own self-love journey, and they found what worked for them, and that was their self-love journey. And they found a place where there wasn't an opponent anymore in their mind, that critic, And I used to have that same critic at night. It would want to talk about everything that happened that day and what I didn't do and how much I didn't get done and how what I said was wrong and how somebody else probably took it wrong and oh my gosh, it's going to be a horrible thing. And finally, I was in that self-love journey. I said to those critics, I'm not talking about this anymore at night. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. And it's like brain training, when you catch yourself and then you decide what your new thing is going to be, and you forgive yourself for slipping, and then you catch yourself and you go to the new place that you want to be. And so I probably for a year I did that. We're not talking about that. And it doesn't happen anymore. I lay down at night and that doesn't happen. So I guess that worked. But there's this, it's in here, right? That place, and finding and coming home to yourself. How do you feel? What do you need? And then the other half of that is being able to lovingly convey what you need. And usually when it comes from a space where you're loving yourself and you're saying it in a loving way and you're using I statements, usually it goes really well with the other person. For example, I started reading my talk to a dear friend yesterday, and she stopped me after 2 paragraphs and said, "Who is this? Ew." I was like, because I had worked so hard. I just wanted to be done. I wanted to watch a show. And I was like, oh no, and so, she encouraged me, remember to talk about, you need to come from the heart, which was the best advice. But it was so hard to hear. And I was sitting there a little shut down, and I was feeling shut down, and I was thinking to myself, what am I gonna do? Because I've been worrying about this thing for 4 weeks now. I've been putting myself through this, which is a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother talk, right? And at the end of the conversation, she was getting ready to go, and she said, and this is somebody that I do a lot of this work with, where I say what I need because it's a safe space. She said, I feel like, here's my biggest fear. I feel like I said too much, and you're upset, and you're not saying anything. And that made me say, no, it's really this. I'm so mad at myself because I've been putting this off, and I've been spinning my wheels, and it doesn't feel right, and I don't know how to get there. So all the things that I was worrying about came up. It didn't have anything to do with her, which was great because she was like, okay, good, sorry. But, you know, that's the one thing I'll preach until I don't have another breath, is to love yourself. And be an example of love and light. And you lift people up by being amazing and bright and beautiful and shining. And if you get into a room where there's a bunch of people that are sad, I think probably some of the human thing is, oh my gosh, I better whoosh, you know, and we tend to dim our light. But what I've learned is, you know, if we dim our light, that's not authentic to who we are. We're not being who we are. And maybe it gives someone else permission to shine their light too. Maybe it gave somebody else permission to say, you know what, I wanna love myself more too. You know, I wanna clean out whatever this is, whatever these old beliefs are that people told me about who I am, that we're grown-ups now. Remember, like, you've got all this stuff programmed right here in the back of your amygdala. All those things that your teachers said about you, and that your parents said about you, and your ex-boyfriend said about you, and your ex-girlfriend said about you, and whoever, the neighbor down the street. It's not true. Who are you? And so that's one of the things that's happening in these classes. It's like people are letting out these old things and realizing, oh my gosh, I can be free from this. This doesn't have to define me. This isn't who I am anymore. So like, let's shine the light in those places. Like, let's love when we need to, like, there's love when we're in despair. And let's hold each other while we're there. And then let's lift each other up when we're not. And can we just do one really quick thing, which is, I'm gonna read, I accept myself. And it would be really wonderful if you chose to repeat after me. And if there's any place in here where you feel a hiccup, maybe that's something to think, I'm gonna love myself more in that area. I'm gonna love myself more there. I accept myself completely. I accept my strengths and my weaknesses. My gifts and my shortcomings. My good points and my faults. I accept myself completely as a human being. Being, not doing. Just saying. That's a side note. I accept I'm here to learn and grow. And I accept that I'm learning and growing. I accept the personality I've developed. And I accept my power to heal and change. I accept myself without condition or reservation. I accept that the core of my being is goodness. And that my essence is love. And I accept that sometimes I forget that. I accept that within my mind are both fear and love. And I accept my power to choose which I will experience as real. I accept the times that I choose fear as part of my learning. As part of my learning. And I accept that I have the potential at any moment to choose love. And I accept that I have the potential at any moment to choose love. I accept that I am an expression of this love. I accept that I am an expression of this love. I accept my own life as a blessing and a gift. I accept my own life as a blessing and a gift. May I always share this gift May I always share the gifts that I receive freely, fully, and with joy. Freely and fully with joy. Thank you so much for this time today.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. You touched my heart. And now